These days, the news stinks. I don't have to tell you that. Every headline I see makes me feel worse than the last. Every once in a while, there's a story that makes me feel great. I'd like to share one in a segment called The Kind of Story We Need Right Now. This is a Eurasian eagle owl, but it's not just any Eurasian eagle owl. This owl's name is Flaco, and last month he was minding his own business, living in the Central Park Zoo, when some vandals cut a hole in his enclosure, and Flaco did what any self-respecting owl in captivity would do. He escaped. That's right. Flaco Shawshanked out of that cage, which, according to one article, was the size of a bus stop, in which he'd been living in for 12 years, and he started flying around Central Park. This is the kind of story we need right now. Every New Yorker dreams of moving out of their tiny apartment into a nicer neighborhood, and Flaco did it. Every New Yorker wants to live on Central Park. Suddenly, this dude was living in Central Park without a trust fund. Incredible. Also, Flaco had been living next to the penguin enclosure, and if there's one thing every New Yorker has had to put up with at some point, it's living next to somebody who eats a ton of fish. My man Flaco escaped a nightmare. Not long after Flaco left the zoo, he was spotted on Fifth Avenue, peering in the window at Bergdorf Goodman. Of course he was. He spent 12 years living in Manhattan, never got to see the sights. That's why he was also spotted at the Statue of Liberty, at the M&M store, and in the front row at Hamilton. There he is. Probably a montage of him somewhere, trying on a bunch of outfits. Flaco's escape created an exciting opportunity for him to spread his wings, but more importantly, it created an opportunity for reporters to say owl puns.
It's a whodunit.
Who done it?
Who done it?
It's a how did you not come up with something better than that? I love that they don't even come up with different puns. It's like they're all using the same copy of Bartlett's Puns for Reporters. But the best part of this whole story is everybody underestimated Flaco. When he first escaped, an owl expert told the New York Times that Flaco would be easy to catch because, in his experience, owls were not particularly smart. Oh, yeah? Then why are they the only birds who graduate? Authorities were worried Flaco wouldn't be able to feed himself in the wild because he'd spent his whole life in captivity. Well, guess what? Owls eat rodents and birds. Worrying an owl will starve in Central Park is like worrying a toddler will starve in a chicken nugget factory. Flaco did just fine on his own because Flaco's not a dumbass, but zoo officials were still determined to get him back, so they set up an elaborate ruse. They left a dead rat out in an open field, and they put it inside a trap, and then they played a recording of owl mating calls to lure Flaco to it. And you know what happened next? Flaco swooped down, grabbed the rat, but didn't stay long enough to get caught in the trap. But he did stay long enough to look directly at a camera and pose. Look at his face. I don't know Flaco, but I'm pretty sure that face is saying, do I look like a idiot? The zoo officials were like, we shouldn't tell anybody about this. They made several more attempts to catch Flaco. They followed him around Central Park with nets. The NYPD even tried to catch him with a dog crate. Nothing worked. And pretty soon, New Yorkers started putting pressure on officials to just leave Flaco alone. And after weeks trying to catch him, zoo officials did just that. They announced they would end their attempts to capture Flaco and let him be free. This is the kind of story we need right now. Everyone underestimated Flaco. They said he couldn't survive on his own. He did it. This is a story for the underdogs, a story for anybody who's ever been told you're too short to play basketball, or girls can't do math, or J-Lo is never gonna date you a second time. So tonight, you walk through Central Park, look up at the sky, you just might see something amazing. You might see Flaco flying free with a rat in one talon and a Hamilton playbill in the other. Because this is the kind of story we need right now.